Where do we start? Let's just recap with Navy. Just a gritty win. Our guys played really hard. Very difficult game to play when you have the ball only 6 minutes in the second half. You know, we could have gotten a couple more possessions with some key stops. We didn't get off the field when we needed to. I think, you know, you can point to a couple of plays, that 3rd and 16 where, you know, we've got to get the fullback down, maybe gets us a couple more possessions. But we never let go of the rope. Our guys kept fighting, trying to find a way to win a football game, and they did, and really proud of their effort. Guys like Sean Crawford just, you know, throwing his body in there, and it really turned into, I think there were 27 plays at the end of the game. Something like 19 of the 27 were quarterback sweeps, and you know, it just turned into single wing, grind it out kind of football, and our guys just, you know, persevered. So it was a good win. Happy for our seniors, happy for the way that they finished off, you know, the first year in the new stadium. Other than a close loss against Georgia early in the season, really a good home schedule for our guys. Now we go back to traditional offense and a really good Stanford team that's playing well. A lot to play for here. There's a lot here in the sense that a win against this football team is important because it's the Legends Trophy for us. Getting that back is very important. It'd give us all the traveling trophies this year, which is something that's kind of important to us that we've talked about in our room here. Beating all the teams that we had lost to last year. Significant for us as well in terms of turning the tables on last year. Team that we haven't beat out there since 2007. Certainly another nationally ranked team, and finally, it probably puts us in a really good position to be considered for a playoff spot, but most assuredly a New Year's Six slot, which, obviously that's a selective position and one that everybody's got their eyes on when they're talking about a great season. So a lot of really big things to look at, but most important, we've got to play the kind of football that we've played earlier, later in October, and that starts with obviously being as a football team, more complete, offensively, defensively, and in our special teams. Hard to do that against Navy offensively. I know there's a lot of people that are saying, you need to be this and you need to be that. Look, what we were really good at offensively was wearing people down, and we didn't wear many people down against Miami because of the way and the nature of the game, and it's hard to wear anybody down when you have the ball for 6 minutes in the second half. So, it starts with being more complete, as a football team, and we'll look to do that against a really good football team, and certainly Stanford. And I think offensively, their offensive line, one of the best ones we'll see all year. I think their physicality is who they are and what they're about. Bryce Love is, going to be the best back that we see all year. He's up for finalist for the Doak Walker. Obviously, premier back in the country, 1,700 yards, very fast, breaks tackles. That's the impressive thing about him is his ability to break tackles. That's what really stood out to me. And I think they've really settled in on Costello as the quarterback. He really kind of has now opened up the offense, I think, in a sense, if you think of that in terms of Stanford. Good quick release, athletic, big, can move. And I love their receivers, big kids that, run really good routes. Irwin and Whiteside are rangy, athletic receivers that are matchup problems. So really, an offense that will stress you in terms of running the football, and then obviously they get the ball in space with their receivers. Defensively, at 3-4 defense, they're rangy at the 4 techniques. The nose, Phillips, is as good as there is in the country. And at the outside backer position, they've got great experience. Veteran presence out there. And I think the real strength of their defense is in the back end. I think Justin Reed is as good a safety as that we'll see all year. So David Shaw does a great job. Obviously they're playing really well right now. So it'll be a great challenge for us on the road. I've kind of chronicled all the things that are out there for our football team. We got to focus on playing better from snap 1 to snap hopefully 75, 80, 85, and being much more consistent from the start to the finish. Great opportunity playing on national television. Last time we played on national television, it wasn't our best football. They get to write the last chapter on this season. What a great opportunity for our football team. So with that, I'm open to the questions.
Brian, Equanimous, Cam Smith, and Dexter, what does their health look like
Working
today?
backward. Dexter, I think he's about as 100% as we've had him. He looked really good yesterday moving around. I think he's got to play a big role for us on Saturday. We expect him to, and that's the plan going in. We're going to see about Cam tomorrow. We're going to get him running and see what he looks like. EQ passed his exertion, physical activity yesterday. He is cleared for non-contact practice today. So he is moving along through the concussion protocol.
And if the non-contact goes well today, possibly contact on Wednesday?
Yeah, if he passes today with no ill effects, then he will be in a limited contact on Wednesday, and he'll have contact on Thursday.
Okay. With special teams just overall this year, just curious your assessment. I know that you had high hopes for a lot of improvement, and you haven't had the big gaff disaster plays, but is it where you want your special teams to be at this point?
I think it's been a mixed bag. I don't think it's been a negative for us. I would have liked a little bit more, maybe from, our kicking game, but we're playing. We're trying to get a true freshman kicker involved. I thought he had a pretty good game kicking into the wind against Navy. The punting's been okay. I think it's probably fair to say that we've been fair to middling, but we haven't been bad and we haven't been great. And sometimes to be great, you got to have one great game breaker. You've got to have somebody that changes the game, and I don't know that we have that guy right now. So then it's up to guys doing their jobs, and I think for the most part we've had guys, other than the mistake we made on Saturday, we've had guys doing their job.
And Chris is not. It seems like he's been reluctant to call fair catches a lot this year. You feel comfortable sticking with him?
Yeah, we do. I mean, he's got a fair catch. I mean, he knows how to fair catch. That's pretty easy. I mean, I think that was just a poor decision on his part. We did a poor job with the gunners as well. Those guys have to help out in that situation and protect him a little bit better. But he knew the circumstances. We're fighting for every possession. We don't need to try to grind for 2 or 3 yards in that situation.
For, I think, the second time in 3 years, your offensive line is up, semifinals, one of 7 teams for the Joe Moore Award. Wanted to ask about the 2 youngest guys on that line, Hainsey and Kramer. Just your assessment of their year overall, and going forward, are they both tackles? Is one of them going to be a guard, do you think, in the future? How you think that'll play?
Yeah, I think they both have played solid football for us, to good football at times. I think there's been some learning curves, but standing here right now going into the last game, if you ask me about playing 2 first-time starters, I'm pleased with their performance. moving forward, I think it has a lot to do with, other players now that are going to get a chance, and Liam Eichenberg and Josh Lugg. There's going to be a very competitive situation now. I offered my parking spot to Quentin Nelson to try to get him to come back. He didn't bite on that, because if we could get him back, then that would change some things too. Right. But clearly there's going to be some competition there, and that will kind of decide where those positions kind of, move to.
And last one from me, I know how much you love big picture questions.
So this is a big picture question, I would assume.
It is.
Yeah.
As you went into this year, you weren't thinking about just having a good season. You wanted to build a model that you thought was sustainable beyond this year. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct.
Okay. What have you seen this year that leads you to believe that's going to be the case, that you didn't just have a special team and a special group, that this is going to be a pretty good model moving forward?
Well, I think anytime that you have a shift within your program, the only way that you can go about and really lay down your mission is that it has to be sustainable. So sustainability starts with what your mission is, and that is to graduate all your players and play for a national championship. And then how are you going to get there? And that is to build the traits on a day-to-day basis that will help get you there. That's the sustainable piece, building those traits amongst our players. So those two things work together. The rest is business as usual, right? Recruiting the right kind of players to Notre Dame, having the right coaches in place, strength and conditioning, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, special teams, all those other things as well. But it starts with the sustainability is really your mission, and then how are you building towards that mission?
Brian, up here. I want you to expand on Stanford a little bit for me, if you would. Is this just another opponent that you have to prepare for like any other? It just seems like because of some similarities of the schools and the high character guys and whatnot, that maybe there's a little bit more to this series.
No, I mean, clearly it's you're going against a team that stresses you from a tactical standpoint, and they're they're a physical football team. They don't make a lot of mistakes. They're well coached. So outside of the apparent similarities from a university standpoint in terms of academics, on the football field, they stress you from how they play the game. A 3-4 defense that is long, makes it difficult for you to do a lot of things, and then they get into nickel and 4 down, and then offensively, a great running back and a physical offensive line. So it's really, to answer your question, it's more about their style of football than it is about. And, of course, who they recruit, right? Smart, tough, well-coached, disciplined players, and they don't beat themselves.
Brian, this has been kind of a tough situation for you. I think 2-9 against top 20 teams on the road. Has there been one common theme why that's been a bit of a struggle to overcome these types of games? Yeah,
playing top 20 teams on the road. It's hard to beat top 20 teams on the road. I don't keep track of those records, but I'm sure there's some really good games in that mix of 2-9. But you go on the road. It's hard to win on the road, and if you're playing top 20 teams on the road, it's even more difficult. So you just prepare your team your best you can, and when you go on the road and you're playing top 20 teams, they're difficult competition. You're probably not, you're not probably going to be 9-2.
What's the short checklist when you go on the road in these types of games that you really have to follow and be clear to the guys that you cannot do these things or you must do these things.
It's exactly what we it's exactly what we did at Miami that you can't do. Turn the football over. And we fed that, atmosphere at Miami, turning the football over. You got to take care of the football. Can't give anybody on the road that energy that gives them that extra momentum at home, similar to what we fed. USC gives us a free possession on a punt, and you just get that energy. It's just you can't turn the football over. You got to play mistake-free. And eliminate big plays. It's not really rocket science. You guys follow it pretty closely. You just have to play poised and disciplined on the road. If you do that, you got a fair shot of winning those games. They'll be close and hard fought. And last time we were there, we lost the game at the end. 38-36, whatever it was. We lost by a field goal.
You can't go. How does it maybe change up your receiver rotation? I don't know if that would do a whole lot to your offensive plans.
Boykin will go in and do a great job. We'll just plug and play him. I think what you'll see is, his ability, in the game against Navy, he filled in very nicely, caught a couple passes, did a nice job blocking on the perimeter. So I think you just take EQ out and you put Miles Boykin in there, and we keep rolling.
And in terms of what Stefferson has given you guys, how would you describe his skill set as a receiver being unique from the rest of that group?
Tracks the ball very well. Has the I would say probably more than anything else, just the natural ball skills and the ability to get over the top of a defense, but tracking the ball very well. Easily catches though he dropped one in the end zone. I should, anoint him as the best ball catcher, but he tracks the ball very well.
In your defensive line through the course of 11 games, how do you feel like that group has gotten better? And I want to ask specifically about Kareem, if that was one of his best performances he's had for you last weekend.
I think our defensive line has been, a consistent group all year. You could argue about, myself included, everybody involved in the football program about the Miami game. But I think every game that they've been part of, they've fought. They've been very consistent. All of those guys, played very physical on Saturday. They went in there with a great attitude, and Clid was one of them. He was in there. He was physical. Would have liked to seen him make the play on the reverse, but he's really, this year has been a breakout year for him in that sense, is that, he's gained a lot of confidence and he's made so much progress in the weight room. So from a physical standpoint, he can go in there and he can battle with anybody.
And then last weekend, was Julian Acquire just a game plan DNP?
Yeah, it's more of a fit to the scheme.
Hey, Brian, you touched on this a little bit in your opening remarks, but what would just getting to 10 wins, making a New Year's Six Bowl, just mean in a larger sense to shutting the door on last season?
It doesn't mean that much to the guys. I think that their focus more is that they want to, this has been a journey for them since January, and they want to finish strong. I don't know that specifically is kind of like, hey, we want to close the door on it. They just really want to finish strong. But I think it does close a lot of the, the talk on last year, by finishing strong. I think it sends a really good message, from that perspective for those that are tuned in it from that sense. But to play in a New Year's Six in 2 out of the last 3 years is extremely helpful, in terms of recruiting and all of those things. And it's what you play for. If you're not playing for a national championship here at Notre Dame, you should be looking with your eye towards playing in a New Year's Six. So I think that means that all is right in the world, in the Notre Dame football world, if that's happening.
If it doesn't mean as much to the guys, what does it mean? What would it mean to you?
Well, I mean, our mission is still to, hold out hope for, one of the playoff spots. To me, it's about preparing our football team the right way and getting them ready for Stanford. And I've never put too much into the wins as much as playing well on Saturday. And so that's been my focus each and every week. I haven't gotten caught up on counting the wins. But if after next week we get a chance to have this conversation again, I'll be able to give you a better sense of it. But again, it's trying to prepare them for one more game and finish off the season on a high note.
And then you also mentioned Bryce Love, of course, in your opening remarks. But just what exactly, specifically, when you're watching him on film, makes him so difficult to defend?
To me, it's his ability to break that first tackle, and then ultimately he's got incredible speed. I just love the fact that here's a guy that he's not McCaffrey in terms of catching the football, so he's a different back, but he's got elite speed and he breaks tackles, and that is a lethal mix. You have to tackle this guy, and that's what makes him a special player.
Brian, right here up the middle, kind of building off of that last question as well. Obviously it's probably fun to watch him play unless you're coaching against him.
Exactly.
And I'm sure coaches feel the same way about Josh Adams too. So what's it like when you get these two Heisman type of running backs going head to head on Saturday?
Well, I think it's both about how you fit the play, and you have to be cupping the football. Your run support has got to be right on. If it's not, Josh has had some big games, and in particular, he's had some good games against Stanford, in particular in 15. So both teams are well aware of how important it is to fit the runs against two really, really good backs.
And then going back to 15 as well, with the circumstances somewhat similar coming up this weekend, do you use anything from 2 years ago to talk to the guys about, how to close the game in that sort of situation, or is it sort of briefly mention it and then just kind of move on and stay more focused?
No, we just won't play the prevent to win defense.
And lastly, what are you thankful for this Thanksgiving?
Just my family and certainly, the opportunities that we've been given here in this country, the freedom of choice, and the opportunity to coach football at Notre Dame. I'm thankful for all those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian, there's a possibility that Love might not play as much because of an ankle injury and things like that. I know Scarlett played the last drive. Mm-hmm. What do they do differently? Are they similar types of backs, or are they? And how do you prepare for maybe the Love not playing and Scarlett playing more?
We're preparing for Love to play, but when Scarlett was in the game, they were very effective. He's a big back. He's 220 pounds. He's physical, very, very good back. He's got very good vision. We're very well aware of him in the recruiting process. He's a guy that, obviously doesn't have the home run ability of Love, but he's a very accomplished back, and, he's going to get you first downs, and you better tackle him. They felt like, in that situation with Love not available, that they were going to, play smash mouth football, and he's a guy that they certainly can do that with.
And talking about smash mouth football, which kind of Navy playing possession kind of ball and stuff like that, your defense was on the field an awful lot last week. How are they coming back leg wise? And what kind of things might you be doing to try to alleviate, the
yeah, they'll have a couple of weeks off. They're 18 to 21 years old. There's some guys that are a little sore, but it's all hands on deck. I mean, let's go. You got one game. today's their last day of school. They got a few days off. You know, rub some dirt on it.
Okay. And so when will you be flying to the West Coast?
We're going to go Thursday. We'll have Thanksgiving meal together, and we'll head out right after that.
Okay.
Coach, following up on having Thanksgiving with your players here, what's that like, the atmosphere like, and being surrounded by them for such a holiday?
Yeah, we get a chance to bring our families in as well. So we go over to the Morris Inn. It's really, we started doing it a couple years ago before we headed out to the West Coast, and it's a great atmosphere. You know, you get to share that with your family, and you have two families there. You've got your natural family and your football family, and one you spend a little bit more time with during the year than the other. So it's great that you're able to share that with both families that you're around, you know, all year. It's obviously a fun environment. It's one where we're very thankful that we get a chance to spend time with our family and then share that with our football family as well.
Just one more question about David Shaw. What's it like coaching against him, and what kind of traits does he bring to the table, and the type of job he's done at Stanford?
Well, I mean, the proof is in the success that he's had. He's done an incredible job. He's been consistent. They are who they are. They don't pretend to be anybody else. They continue to, year in and year out, produce top-ranked teams and players that are, drafted in the NFL, as well as, getting a Stanford education. So he's done a great job.
Brian?
Yeah.
Aside from the fact that when you go to Stanford, you're obviously playing a really talented team, is there anything about playing in that place that's perhaps more difficult than other venues? It seems like home field advantage in this series maybe means more than any other of your traditional opponents.
I don't think so. I mean, you're going on the West Coast. You've got to be careful with the clock. We're playing at 5, so, that's not too bad. But, no, I just think you have to take the precautions. Our guys are going to get over there, and Friday morning, they got to put their phone on airplane mode because it's going to go off at, 5 a.m., and because people will start texting around 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, and they need to be sleeping. So just getting the right rest is you're still dealing with that 3-hour, change. That's probably the biggest adjustment. Playing on grass, they haven't always had the greatest field surface, but that's not an excuse because we both have to play on it. But no, I just think that they've had good teams. And they've been close games. I think since 2012, I mean, these games have been decided by 7 points or less, maybe. I haven't studied it, but it seems in my recollection they've been really close games since 12. I know the first couple of years we got our butts kicked, but since 12, I think they've been, one-score games, pretty much. I could be wrong, but is that correct? So just two good teams playing.
If you could go back to January and know that you could get to this point in the year and be 9-2 with a chance to win 10
I'll
games,
take it.
Would you? Yeah. Is it that simple?
It's that simple.
Yeah, okay. Suppose you guys win this Saturday. Do you think you've created a strong enough resume that you guys deserve at least strong consideration for the playoff? I mean, a lot still has to happen.
I think if you're in the top 8, you're strongly considered, right? We're just outside that right now, or close to it, I don't know. We need another top 20 win, top 25 win, and I think we'll be strongly considered. I think the teams that are up there have all had one bad day, and we had one bad day too. We'll have to see how the rest of it goes, but we got to play well on Saturday. It's important to play well against a really good football team.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Good.